for every great person you have heard of, there's got to be at least 100 other ones just as great that you just don't know about yet, or that just haven't been discovered or haven't been picked up by the label. And what's great about the internet is there you can find so many smaller artists, so many homegrown, so to speak, artists self-publishing their books, making their own videos, making their own films, making their own music. And we really have an opportunity now to encourage each other and share each other's work in a way that we never have.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we bring you some super special, awesome humans from around the globe. Today is another one of those special occasions. I got to thank my good buddy, Mr. Eminem, all the way from the great country of Canada. That's right, folks, Canada. And for those who don't speak Ebonics, the land of Canada, for hooking me up with another super special, awesome lady who not only writes books, but she's also an actress who's won a bunch of awards. This wonderful lady right here is a multi-hyphenated actor, writer, producer who has an ongoing love affair with the creative process. So all the entanglement, y'all. And she has over 30 international stage credits in Canada, the US of A, Australia, and Europe, seamlessly maneuvering between classical, comedic, and dramatic work. So CCDs all over the place, baby. And not only that, she's also a stand-up comedian. Apparently a sit-down comedian when Zoom is involved, that is performed in legendary clubs from the Comedy Store and the Sunset Strip all the way to the New York Comedy Club and Yuck Yucks in Toronto. And to make it even better and not butter, she actually has done a solo show called The Year of the Slut that won the Audience Choice Award at the Frigid New York Festival and is now the award-winning novel, The Year of the What. So we've had, my goodness, we had Jenny from the freaking Healing Block. We've had Jenny from the Prosperity Block. We've had Jenny from the Aussie Block. And we even had Jenny from the Swedish Block. And now we have Jenny from the Canadian Block. So let's give it up for Jennifer Lieberman.
Hi. Hey, Dom. How are you?
Doing fabulous, doing fabulous. I'm so glad you're from Canada. So it's like, yes, that bad joke of mine gets to have more mileage now. This is good.
Yeah, exactly. You can find some sort of Jenny anywhere you go in the world. There's going to be some awesome Jenny around.
Oh yeah, that's right. Except this one involves lots of maple syrup and acting in stand-up comedy.
Totally. Totally. All the good things, all the yummy, good things in life that fill our soul.
That's right. Almost like a turkey at Thanksgiving. That's right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh man. Well, speaking of stuffing, I'm pretty sure I probably put a lot of stuff in the introduction, but
I
as you
know
know,
so much. But I listened to that intro and I'm like, is he talking about me? Wow, there's a lot going on there.
oh yeah, that's right. The pretty lady with the well-brushed hair. That's right. Talking about you. That's right.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, basically, like I'm an actor who started writing and producing to give myself work. So that's kind of how it all started. And everything, all of my skills and all of the different things that I do just kind of stemmed out of needing those skills to be able to put up a show so I could be an actor. So like when I was in New York, I was with a theater company. There was a need for a new producer. And I kind of stepped up to the plate, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was 22. I made so many mistakes. I probably wasn't a pleasant person to be around, because there's a lot of responsibility and I wasn't necessarily ready for it, but I took it on anyways. And I'm definitely better for it. But yeah, so like all the skills I kind of collected were like for the overreaching goal of acting and writing pieces for myself to act in. So yeah, that was kind of always the goal, and that's what I get to do. So like it's so weird that I actually get to do it. It's really cool.
There you go. Probably cooler than 3 cucumbers, I imagine.
Well, it's like
Oh, okay.
like 4 cucumbers.
Oh, there we go. So she has mastered the coolness multiplier in terms of the cucumbers. All right, cool. That's right. That's right. The more cucumbers, the cooler it is, and the cooler she is indeed. That's right. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so 22, extra young age, getting all that action. And my goodness, funny enough, like the thing was, I believe you actually had wanted to be an actor all your life, starting at the age of 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was a kid and I used to basically like watch TV shows and be like, I want to be on the show. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it all started because I wanted to be Zach Morris's girlfriend on like Saved by the Bell. So I'm like this little kid watching this TV show, and I'm like, well, I'm going to write an episode. And I started writing episodes of shows and like making myself a character on the show. And that's basically how I started writing scripts. And like nowadays, it's called a spec script. Like if you write a sample piece of writing for a show that already exists, that's part of how agents and people in the industry can assess your work. Because part of being a writer is getting to write your own things, but the other half of being a writer is getting hired to be a writer for other people's projects. Like in the film business, it's maybe 1 or 2 people who created a show, but they have a writing staff of a dozen people. So there's always jobs. So those spec scripts are like real things like in the film industry that I never knew about. But yeah, and then by the time I was like 12, I wrote my first like movie. And but the first one I count I wrote in university. And yeah, so that's always kind of been the goal, and it's always been a passion of mine.
Oh, all right. There we go. That's right. Learned something new today. Spec scripts. My goodness. Oh, all right. There we
Yeah.
go. Just like, yeah. The writers are getting the show all wrong. Let me write my own spec script here. Do it right. Like Tayo killing off these characters, darn it.
Yeah, well, it's a good way to get noticed. If you have a writing style that works really well with like something that's already happening, why not? There's no wrong way to get a foot in the door.
All righty. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. There's definitely no wrong way to get your foot in the door, indeed. That's right. That's right, indeed. Especially if it involves a door stopper or maybe a pecan pie. Who knows?
Yeah, or developing new skills that'll be useful in the future, and that'll give you a little more control over your decisions.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Kind of like what you did. My goodness. Because you, in addition to that wonderful year, the what, you actually published 2 little mini books, one on making sure that your virtual meetings don't suck, and the other one on voice acting for those who need to do their own audiobooks and get their heads out of their own butts and do it.
Yeah, so I wrote those books during the pandemic, as we were talking about, that it's been the year of the pivot, and everybody has kind of had to pivot in one way or another just to deal with the repercussions of the pandemic, first the lockdown, and, just the way our normal lives have been interrupted. So I was locked down and I was, shut in for quite a while up in Canada, like many people have been all over the world. So first of all, a colleague of mine suggested I record my audiobook for Year of the What. She kind of knew that I was at home, like without the ability to do much. So she's like, you've got some time on your hands, just commit to doing it a few hours a day and just kind of get it done. It'll take you a couple of months, but what are you doing right now? So I took her advice and I did record the audiobook, and I really messed up a lot. Like when I say a lot, like I had to start from scratch. I recorded the entire book and then listened to it, tried to start editing it, and then was like, nope, not good enough. And I started from the beginning and I did it a second time, and I learned so much of just kind of do's and don'ts. So this same friend, I have to stop talking to her because every time we chat, she gives me more work to do. So, I'm so proud. I'm like, I finally finished this audiobook that you told me to do. It's taken me months. It took me twice as long because I had to do it a second time. And she's like, oh, this is great. Now you can write a how-to book about it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I just finished this big project. Like, she didn't even like take a second to pause and be like, oh, congratulations, that's wonderful. That must have taken a lot of work. No, forget that. It's like, oh, now you're writing a whole new book. Oh, so cool. Like, yeah, just give yourself another several months of work to do. But it actually was a good idea because there are a lot of self-published authors out there where we would be the best person suited to tell our own story. Like there's some sort of unique perspective. I'm not talking about like a J.K. Rowling who wrote like Harry Potter, Of course, you're going to want some older British man reading that. But in terms of like the majority of books that are being self-published, a lot of memoirs, a lot of people talking about experiences they've had in their own lives, why not? So I felt like there could be a little gap in the market here because I don't know if there's a tool like this that was specifically geared towards self-published authors. So yeah, so I actually felt like I did have something of value to share. So I did spit that out quite quickly. It took me less than a few weeks to write it. And I guess because all of the trial and error of getting my own audiobook done was so fresh that like it just wrote itself quite quickly. And so it's called Make Your Own Break: How to Record and Publish Your Audiobook in 7 Simple Steps. And there's 7 simple steps, and it just kind of takes you through it step by step, and it gives you a realistic timeline. Like if you think you're gonna achieve this in a month, you're kidding. Like you're kidding yourself. You want to carve out, and also you don't want it to be pressured, and you need to be able to give your voice a break every like if you think that you can read your book for 2 to 3 hours a day, every single day, 7 days a week until you get your book done, you've got another thing coming, even if you're a professional speaker or professional singer. That's just completely unnatural. And also, I don't care if you're the best, fastest reader in the world, it's almost physically impossible for you to read 3 pages of your book straight without taking a breath in the wrong moment, without having to sigh, without flubbing over a word. No, but it's just the reality of it. So I think one of the most beneficial things that I do in the book is give everybody a realistic timeline of, it's going to take you about half a year. Maybe it'll take you 4 months, maybe 5 months, maybe 6 months, but you're committing to doing something every week for 6 months to work towards this end goal. And some people are like, oh, forget it. Like, I would never do that. I would never commit to that. And even if that's it, even if that's what you learned from my book, then that was a worthwhile investment. Because, can you imagine buying a bunch of equipment, spending a couple $100 on Amazon?
Yep. Yep.
Getting your whole shtick ready, and like 3 days into it, you're like, God, I hate this. I hate the sound of my voice. I hate sitting in my closet. It's really sweaty in here. Like, this isn't happening. Because actually, like, one of my editors who was proofreading the book for me was like, oh, this is really scary when you start talking about the timeline. Like, if I was somebody who was thinking about doing this and I read this breakdown of time, I would be deterred from starting this project. And I was like, well, that's actually really good, because I would hate for somebody to put time and effort and energy into something without having a realistic goal or a realistic idea of how long it's actually going to take. Because a lot of times that's a deciding factor if we're going to do something. Like, even if we're going to watch a series, if we're about to start watching a series, what do we need to know? We need to know how many episodes and how many seasons is it? Like, am I committing to 6 years of sitting on my couch, to like, are we starting Game of Thrones from season 1? Because if that's the story, like, I can't commit. I can't commit to that right now. Umbrella Academy, okay, it's only 2 seasons. Each season's got like 10 episodes. Okay, I can do that. I can do that in a weekend.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And it's so true because I've done a couple audiobooks. Probably about a good 3 of them. 2 of them were my own. One of them was for another person. And the ones for myself, it was easy. It was a book under 100 pages, similar to your book. And when I did one for a buddy of mine, it was like, oh, wow, totally different ball game, totally different writing style, and what the fudge? Why can I not read this plain English? I know I failed English at one point in high school, but I can still read it. What is wrong with me? Just have those moments like, oh God, no. And of course, another thing I love about the project is the fact that not only you gave that realistic timeline, is that you gave some wonderful exercises. Like, oh my goodness, I never thought of 11 benevolent elephants would be a good thing to keep in mind.
Well, it's little things. So one of the reasons I thought that doing a voice recording would be a piece of cake is because I did the book as a one-woman show before it was a book. I played all the characters. I was on stage for an hour and a half. I speaking by myself. So I understood the physical challenges and the physical demands of doing a long piece like that, and having to rehearse it. So it's funny. I love that you mentioned, like, maybe I did fail English, but usually I can read. But it's true, when it's not our writing, and even when it is our own writing, when we're reading out loud, it's like we're using a different part of our brain than when we're actually just reading something on the page. So I do give a bunch of vocal exercises, breathing exercises, and tongue twisters. Our breath is what allows us to make noise. If we don't have enough breath, we will not have enough breath to make noise to finish a sentence. There's people, I'm sure we've all met people in our lives, whether they're relatives or colleagues or whatever, that are on the unhealthy side. Maybe they're smokers, maybe they're a little overweight, and you can hear that they're out of breath before they get to the end of a sentence when they're talking, and so that's something when you're speaking, when you're performing, whether you're a public speaker, whether you're a radio personality, news anchor, actor, or whether even a lawyer, you know, you're standing up in a courtroom when you speak for a living. So number one is breath. You need to be able to be aware of your breath, and also be aware if you have particularly long sentences that you need to prepare for that, that you need to have an extra long breath, or you need to know where you're going to be pausing in the middle of the sentence to take a breath, because there's a natural rhythm when you're reading these audiobooks, you know, and part of the time that you have to stop and go back so much isn't even because you're not able to read the words on the page. It's because you don't intonate the right word at the right time. And you want to go back because you want to emphasize a point, or you want to emphasize the emotion of the sentence or the paragraph correctly by punctuating the right words with emotion or intonation. So all of these little tricks, you know, and there's a learning curve. Obviously, the first chapter, it might take you 3 days to record the first chapter. But once you get the first chapter done, then you can get a chapter done in a day, you know? So that's the other thing. And I suggest that people start doing these kind of tongue twisters and word exercises about a month before, or even longer, before you're ready to read your book. Because if you're not a professional speaker, you're probably out of practice, and you don't want to strain your voice. You don't want to hurt your voice. You know, you don't want to go hard for 3 days and then have to take off for 2 weeks because you're raspy. Like it is something you really can injure, and you want to protect. So, you know, that's another thing that I suggest, is like to take care of your instrument and how you use it. So yeah, anyway, it's a bunch of cool little tips like that. And I talk about some technical stuff and setup and editing and whatnot. And also just rehearsing, because that's the other thing is, you know, you want to be reading the chapter that you're going to record. You want to read it 2-3 times in a row before you get into the recording booth that same day, because then you're going to know where to intonate and where to exaggerate things, or, you know, put in a little bit of sass or mystery or anger or whatever it's going to be. So yeah, so that was one of the books. And then the other book that I did during the pandemic was Make Your Own Break. So Make Your Own Break is my production consulting business. So those books are how-to books, and I figure they might as well be under my consulting business. That's called Make Your Own Break because that's what I help people figure out how to do things in terms of low budget production. So the second book is How to Master Your Virtual Meeting in 7 Simple Steps, because I was sent a few executives to coach towards the beginning of the pandemic who felt like they weren't achieving their best, I guess, their best work with their team via Zoom. So kind of figuring out some tips, because a lot of executives are not used to performing on camera, and how it's a totally different medium, like theater and film, theater acting, when you're actually in the room with people, it's a very different beast than when you're working the camera, so to speak. So yeah, so I came up with 7 simple tips to help. And some of it is performance, some of it is setup and technical stuff, and some of it is mindset, because that's usually the biggest make it or break it in a performance, no matter what you're doing, whether it's athletics, a business presentation, or a theatrical performance. Mindset is 100% of what's going to make it or break it.
Oh yeah, that's right. You heard it from the Queen of Stamina, y'all. That's right. That's right. Make your own break, indeed. That's right. That's right. Make your own Kit Kat if you have to, with all the chocolate and the crispiness. That's right. Make your own break. Folks may
Love
not give it to you, but make it.
I love me some Kit Kat. You don't understand. That's good stuff.
I knew you were good people. All right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, so with all this wonderful stuff and all the wonderful techniques that you were able to carry over from the days when you were doing that one woman show for quite a long time, enough so that way you got an award for it, going probably back in time to that time. So how did the one woman show idea come into fruition? And what was the preparation like for that? Because that is a big, huge task to take on.
Yeah, okay, so that's a really great question. So when I first moved to LA, I lived in New York right after college. And then I got an opportunity in LA, and I was like, well, I really do want to do films. So let's see what opportunities, unfold. So somebody suggested that I do a one woman show because it would be a really good way to showcase myself. She knew me as a writer and she knew that I was a performer, but she also knew I was new in town and nobody knew who I was. Yes. So it was all new. It was lots of new everywhere. Nobody knew that I knew that they knew how fabulous I was. So anyway, that's what happened. So basically somebody just kind of suggested like this could be a really good way for you to showcase, number one, your writing ability because you can write the play for yourself, and two, your acting ability because you can tailor it in a way that you play several different characters and you can showcase all of your, roles and all of your shtick and all your accents and all the things that you do, because I do all that stuff. So that was the plan. And it's so funny because I had produced 2 one-woman shows for friends of mine the year before. And I swear I had zero intention when I produced these shows. The first one, the woman was just fabulous. Her name is Mina Oliveira. She's so freaking talented. Her show was called Latina on the Loose, and she is a Brazilian actress. She's also a writer director now. She had like a film that she directed released in Brazil just before the pandemic. She is so freaking awesome. So she was doing Latina on the Loose and she was just practicing little pieces in acting class. And I was like, holy schmoly, this girl is so good. And I had just come from New York where I was running a theater company. And I was like, girl, like, you are so good. I don't want to get paid. I just got to LA, but I want to help you make this play happen because it just deserves to happen. And so I volunteered for her and I helped her get her piece up, and it got picked up by a bigger company and went on to win awards and be fabulous because she's so fabulous. And then another woman in the company, because it was like an acting studio, theater company type thing, she asked me to help produce her show. So I did. Once again, so fabulous. Susanna Brisk, like so funny, so amazing. And that's the thing, especially after working with these 2 women and seeing what they did, I never thought I had one fingernail's worth of talent in terms of having the ability to do a one-woman show and play a bunch of characters and be on stage for an hour and a half and all the things that it entails. I never ever thought that I could do something like that. And then a year later, someone's like, that's what you got to do. Like, you're in Hollywood. You want to make it. You want to be that like 1% of a person who actually has a chance, like 1/2 of a fingernail of a percent. As much talent as I think I have, that's how much of a chance I have. And she's like, girl, like, if you don't think you could do this one woman show, if you can't write and perform a one woman show, well then why are you in Hollywood? Like, what are you doing here? Like, bye.
She didn't quite say it like that. I'm being dramatic, but that's what she meant, and I got it, because it's like every person who comes to Hollywood thinks they are the fucking, excuse me, I don't know if I could say that, best in the world. And if they didn't think they were the best in the world, they wouldn't have the cojones to pack up their stuff from wherever they came with maple syrup from, and and showed up saying, I'm here and I'm gonna, I'm gonna have my shot at it. So that's how the one woman show came about, in a little nutshell of maple syrup. So that's what happened. And I ended up writing this show called Year of the Slut, because everything else I wanted to do was too artistic. And I kept getting told I wasn't in New York and I couldn't do performance art, and that it had to be like snappy and commercial and like, butts in seats, girl, butts in seats. So I was like, butts in seats. And that's how I came up with Year of the Slut. And so it's just kind of this sweet coming of age story about a girl who's completely heartbroken and then embarks into the crazy, outrageous New York dating world that she's not exactly ready for, but finds her way in. So I played 10 different characters, and it's like I was training for the Olympics. And when I say that, I mean I was training for the Olympics. So like, and I'll give you like a rundown of my day, just so you understand what Olympic training is like.
Sweet.
In case any of you out there haven't trained for the Olympics, I can give you like a little nutshell. So you wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do is you read the whole script out loud. That takes over an hour. So you can do that with like some coffee, but you're not eating breakfast because you can't be eating and saying words. So you read the whole script, and then you get ready to go to like a rehearsal, and then say you'll rehearse from like 10 until 2. And then from there, you will go to the gym, and you will do a cardio class, and then you will do a yoga class, and then you will swim several laps. And when I say several laps, I mean you will not count how many laps you swim. You will swim back and forth, reciting every single line of the play. And you will just keep swimming back and forth until you get through every line.
Wow.
Which takes at least an hour. Okay, so at this point in time, you've already recited the play, aside from rehearsal, 2 whole times. And then you go home, you work on your role, because the director probably gave you some nuance for the different characters you were working on that day. Not all of them, but maybe 1 or 2. You need to like do some more studying on your accent, or work a little bit more on your physicality. Then when you're ready for bed, you sit in bed and you read the script again. The whole thing out loud.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like,
Wow.
that's the first thing you read every morning and the last thing you read every night. And yeah, and the swimming the laps was the best, because you're not standing in one spot on the stage reciting these lines to do a whole play. You're running from one side of the stage to the other side of the stage. You're jumping up, you're doing a dance, you're doing a cartwheel, you're, standing on your head, because I did all those things in my show.
Oh, hello.
But yeah, so you really do need the stamina, the physical stamina, to get through the show. And yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
All righty. Yes, indeed. That's right. I was semi joking about that Queen of Stamina, but nah, looks like it was the real deal, baby. The real deal, Holyfield, indeed. That's right. That Latina really did get on the loose, baby. She got on the loose. And then Little did she know that that was just the gateway for Jen to have her moment to shine and get some medals around her neck indeed for herself. That's really testament to the power of just really helping out some buddies with their works that way. They can shine, so that way that shine will come back to you too.
Well, yeah, and you know what? Like, so first of all, like, I just love the creative process. Like, I love the excitement of bringing a story to life, bringing characters to life. And part of the love, it's like, it doesn't have to be about me. Of course, yes, it's always nice to get cast. It's nice to be the lead or not the lead or any role or whatever, it's always nice to be part of that, but it's not always appropriate. And there are sometimes in life, there are ways that you can be involved in something bigger than yourself and still be a part of something really cool. And it doesn't have to be about what it's going to get you in your future, but just in terms of like creating art and just the fact that art keeps getting to get created. Because I think that's the most important thing of being an artist. It's not necessarily per se, I'm getting so like philosophical right now, but being an artist is not necessarily being somebody who, it's not about the pieces that you make. It's not about the individual pieces that you write or the films that you make or the sculptures that you sculpt. The most important thing about being an artist is just the act of creation itself, as an act of expression, as an act of rebellion, as an act of whatever it is we choose to use our medium for. But that's the importance. No one piece of artwork in the world trumps any other piece to be the most important piece or the best piece or the best whatever. Everything is also subjective, and that's what makes it so important, is that it's just a reflection. And it's not only a reflection of our society or of what's going on in the times, it's a reflection of the individual's own psyche while they're looking at that piece, because the piece of art is reflecting life in some sort of way. Meanwhile, the observer of the piece of art is seeing a reflection of themselves within the art because of how they react to it.
Woo! If I had an organ soundboard, she's preaching, y'all. That's right. Reverend Jen's in the building, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Gonna pass around this plate after the show. Indeed, she's preaching, y'all. She's preaching for all because it's so darn true. So darn true about the wonderful world of art, especially embracing your creativity and allowing it to really explode in different ways, whether that's writing, painting, speaking. In your case, you do all of those. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you probably got a painting hiding around somewhere, probably. And all the other artwork that you do to really express yourself. And that's really a medium that we all need. Now, granted, I know sometimes in different parts of the world, that's more of a, I'd say probably an upper class sort of thing in terms of folks who may have more resources to get into, I guess, in the big form like art in a museum sort of way. But art can really be expressed at any level, to be honest. And it comes in so many different ways now. And we have so many mediums to do so. It's so amazing. And just to see someone else's artwork, their pieces to be displayed and heck, to be shared for generations to come. So, yeah, solid stuff right there.
Yeah, and one of the things that I talk about, like you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily need to be in a big national gallery, or a theater piece that you do doesn't necessarily need to be on Broadway or off Broadway. It can be in a small little theater in a small town, and it can still have a positive impact on the community that gets to enjoy the piece. Like, I love going to see small bands. I love music. I'm not musical. I don't paint and I don't sing, but going to see bands is one of my favorite things. And like, sure, it's always nice to go to a big concert at a stadium type venue with like a super famous musician that you love. Like, sure, that's always cool. But my best experiences in terms of listening to music has always been in smaller clubs with an obscure little band that nobody's really heard of, but are still really great because, for every great person you have heard of, there's got to be at least 100 other ones just as great that you just don't know about yet, or that just haven't been discovered or haven't been picked up by the label, you know? And what's great about the internet is there you can find so many smaller artists, so many homegrown, so to speak, artists that are self-publishing their books, making their own videos, making their own films, making their own music. And we really have an opportunity now to encourage each other and share each other's work in a way that we never have, and some people say, well, yeah, but then everybody thinks that they can do it. Well, isn't it better to live in a world where everybody thinks that they can do it as opposed to living in a world where everybody thinks they can't? Because you don't know if you can do it or not. And most people who start out trying to be a musician, they fall off pretty quickly. Like the average lifespan of a musician or an actor or, somebody who's trying to do a creative field. First of all, we don't love things that we're not really good at. Most of the time when we have a true passion for something, it's because we have a certain aptitude for it and we just have a certain ability. We've reached a certain amount of proficiency. So that's one thing, and not everybody who tries to paint is going to be Van Gogh. Not everybody who picks up a guitar is going to be Jimi Hendrix. That's just not, that, and that's okay too, because who, who says you need to be that? Everybody's going to find something that they're good at. But I think it's great that now with the internet, everybody's kind of, you can go on YouTube, you can get a tutorial, things are becoming more accessible. And it's funny because you were saying, it used to be that more affluent people had access to these types of things. And that used to be true. But now with the internet and with YouTube, things are becoming so much more accessible to so many more people if they want to put in the time, if they want to put in the effort. So I think it's exciting. And like I said, I'd rather live in a world where everybody thought they can as opposed to everybody thought they can't.
Woo! Yes, indeed. Hot dog, she's on a roll, y'all. That's right. Miss JTP, Jen the philosopher, baby. That's right. That's right. With her philosopher's stone in her brain, y'all. I'm telling you. That's right. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's so darn true, indeed. That's right. You don't need to be the next great anybody. Like, hey, be the next great you. That's right. Don't try to be like
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix. Like, hey, be the next best you. Everybody else is taken. Besides, as you said, like with every one great big personality, there's probably 10 others, 10 others under the metaphorical pyramid that have great stuff that might even be better for the person that has all the attention.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And there's not necessarily any rhyme or reason to it. But if you're doing something because you love it, you're always going to find joy in it because it's joyful to exercise that skill or that talent. It's not about what you're going to get from it, what the end game is. So I feel so fortunate because my childhood dream was to write movies and make them and be in them. And I've been doing that for the past several years. Sure, I still have a side hustle. I still have other things that I do. It's not it's not the number one only thing in my life yet, but I'm getting closer. Every year I've gotten a little closer and a little closer. So that's pretty cool. And sure, there's definitely been ups and downs, but I think that's going to be any career path, whether it's a creative path or whether it's a more traditional path. That's just life.
That's right, indeed. Definitely life indeed. Well, with all these wonderful projects you got with the award-winning one-woman show and making that into a book, and then pivoting in 2020 to really take those skills and be an elite performer and not just acting, but basically life with all that you're doing. What's next for Jen?
So I have a couple things coming up next. The first thing that I want to mention is book 2 of the Year of the What series. So book 1 is Year of the Slut, and it was adapted from the One Woman Show. And I had to change the title because of some censorship. So book 2 is Year of the Bitch, but it's just going to be called book 2 of the Year of the What series until you open it, and then you'll see that it's Year of the Bitch. So that's exciting. Writing book 2, continuing the character's journey into womanhood and coming into her own and her power. So that's really exciting. And then the other thing is I wrote a feature film. I've written several feature films, but this one looks like it actually has a shot. So,
Nice.
so I've written a feature film, and I'm actually in preparation to make it. It won't be made until towards the end of 2022. So we're looking at probably a year and a half from now. We won't start filming, but I'm very excited about it. I wrote it and I will be directing it. And it is a relationship-based provocative drama about 4 couples who become entangled as their relationships are falling apart. So Year of the What is a comedy book series. However, my films tend to be more on the racy kind of noir side. So yeah, they're definitely a different feel. They definitely have like the sexual component and relationship driven. I tend to write about relationships mostly, but sometimes they're funny and sometimes they're kind of steamy and sexy. So that's the movie leans more in that direction. And it's called Longing.
Long egg. That's a dude. That's a dude. Well, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Embracing that level of creativity, exploring all that's within your mind, mining for that magical goal to get on the big screen. That's right, folks. She's gonna be in your ear. She's gonna be in the pages in front of you. She's gonna be on the screen in front of you. That's right, folks. She's gonna be everywhere, y'all. That's right. She's gonna have her.
Everywhere. You won't be able to get rid of me.
That's right. There's no escape from Jen now. You are now in the Jenception. That's right. There's no escape.
No
That's
escape.
right. That's right. It's surround sound, y'all. That's right. We're gonna have to call it Jennifer Digital. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're a 25 again, at this time in the current year of 2021, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Don't wait. Just don't wait. Don't wait for anything. You know, life is too short and it goes by real fast. And there's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be an excuse as to why not. So stop talking yourself out of things and start talking yourself into things.
Well, there you have it, folks. Talk yourself into more things, y'all. That's right. If you want that cheesecake, go ahead and have it. Have the Ben and Jerry's. Go ahead and do it. That's right. Get all the ice cream, y'all. Talk yourself into it. That's right. That's right. I was best with you. That's not the
Get on that treadmill. Go to the gym.
There you go. That's right. Swim a bunch of laps until you memorize all of Jen's books.
Yes, totally. Totally.
That's right. That's right. Because 11 benevolent elephants await you. That's right.
That's actually one of my favorite phrases. I love that you keep saying it. 11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants. See, pretty good. I practice almost every day.
Well, I could tell with that one. I'm like, 'cause I tried that with myself before we got on the recording, the Zoom room, and I'm like, my God, I sound like one of the rappers of today over a trap beat. My goodness, I'm like, it's like, what the heck is this saying? Like, maybe that's what they're saying in their lyrics.
Everyone thinks speaking is so easy. It's not.
Mhm. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's so easy until like you have to do it for a living. And then it's like, oh my God.
Definitely say that again. Speak is probably one of the few things that involves your whole entire body. Literally.
Yeah, well, people don't realize it. And like people don't realize how they sound differently, like if their feet are planted on the ground, if they're sitting up straight, if they're sitting on their sits bones. Yeah, like if their rib cage is open and they're able to like get enough oxygen. So many things. I don't even want to get started because like I've taken several voice classes and voice coaching, and you can just talk about your posture for hours just in relative to your speaking instrument. But yeah, it's cool. I digress. I'm a theater nerd. I can't help it.
Ain't nothing wrong with being a theater nerd. To be honest, at the end of the day, we're all a nerd about something.
Yep.
That's right, indeed. And folks need to nerd out on your content because you got so much of it out there, indeed, for both the entertainment and education value. So, for those who want to do just that and keep up with all the stuff that you're doing and be on the lookout, especially when that wonderful movie of yours starts hitting the big screens. That's right, the big screens. We have to tune all 5 of our eyes on the screen to watch it. What's the best way, folks, to keep up with the wonderful Jen?
Yes. So on social media, my handle is IAMJenLieberman. I am Jen Lieberman. And if you want to keep up with like my acting stuff and my performance stuff, JenniferLiebermanActor.com. If you want to keep up with stuff for the book, yearofthewhat.com. And if you want to keep up with my production consulting and the educational materials, the how-to books, makeyourownbreak.com. And if you go to any of those websites will feed themselves back into the others, so you can find the others through there. A great way to stay in touch is social media, number one, and number two is sign up for my newsletter. I don't do them very often. I do them about 4 times a year, once every quarter, but that's a good way to stay updated with new books I have coming out, stand-up comedy performances, shows I'm going to be on, things like that. So yeah, and through any of my websites, you can find a sign up link for my newsletter. So yeah, there's that. But JenniferLiebermanActor.com or yearofthewhat.com.
Yeah. That's right. You're the Wise is so darn freaking good, y'all. That's right. Head over to I am Jen Lieberman. Head over all the social media pages. It'll all be in the show notes. Indeed. Click subscribe to the newsletter. That way you get some magical news. That's right. The good news. Not that crap they put on TV that bleeds and leads, y'all. Get that stuff that'll be in your inbox that'll help you prosper, learn, and be entertained indeed, y'all. That's right. That's right. And you too may one day have 30 benevolent elephants. That's right. 30 of them.
I would be happy with just one. Just I don't need a whole 11, but like just one benevolent elephant. It would be very pleasing to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Well, any parting thoughts before we close up shop? Any parting thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, Dom. This has been so much fun. Oh my God, such a pleasure to chat with you. Parting thoughts are have an awesome summer, everyone. Have an awesome summer out of this craziness we've been living in, but be safe. And pick up your copy of Year of the What if you want to get inspired to find a new steamy summer romance.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode. Heck, even shoot myself or the guest an email and let them know what you liked most about this interview, so that way they can stay inspired to keep pushing out great work.